Happy Tuesday evening, Wizarding Wands and Mickey Ears friends. I'm Jennifer McCormick here with Catherine, and we have so much to talk about tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and share out our stream, make sure that everybody who's interested is able to access things, and I will let Catherine kick it off.
Yeah, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for Topics and Tidbits Live. We're excited to be here. We didn't even really need to write down what we needed to talk about tonight because we were just at Disney, if you've been following us. So we have a lot to talk about there. But again, there's news from Universal and other destinations as well. So before we launch into all of the news, if you are watching this and you are not already subscribed, please do so. Hit that bell icon so you're notified when we go live. And we always appreciate you clicking on that thumbs up to let us know that you are watching us. And as always, feel free to let us know where you're watching from. Leave a note in the chat, even just to say hello. If you have questions while we're chatting, we love to interact with you. And we have a giveaway that we're doing as well. So extra incentive to get those of you who maybe haven't chatted yet to do that as well. So Jennifer's getting it all shared out so everyone knows that we are live and here as well. So we are sad to be back sitting here. It feels like a whirlwind that we saw each other in person and didn't have to communicate via Zoom. So nice.
We had an incredible time. I don't know about you, but it felt like, oh my gosh, I've been looking forward to this for a year. And now that part is over, but there's still so much more left to do and to be excited about. And so, yeah, we just had such a great time that I really want to go back.
Yeah, I know. My trip was a little shorter, and we'll get to that as well because, we're both moms and have children, and sometimes high schools don't consult the Wizarding Wands and Mickey Ears moms when they decide to schedule homecoming.
Right.
I don't know why, but that's what happened to me. So that's why my trip was ultra short, but we packed a ton in. But as always, because it's Tuesday, there has been so much news. We were still adding things, and literally Disney said they must be going live. So let's throw some more things at them to talk about. But we wanted to start with Universal news tonight. As you know, it's been a little quiet over the past few weeks. Not that Universal's not up and running or things are happening, but they just haven't had a lot of new developments. So finally, some news today, which is nice.
Right. So we learned today that they have announced that their Mardi Gras celebration is coming back this, I guess, late winter, spring. It's going to be a long run. It's February 5th through April 24th, 2022. And, my family has had the opportunity to enjoy the Mardi Gras celebration at Universal. It's incredible. I don't know. I've never been able to enjoy Mardi Gras in New Orleans. I've been to New Orleans. I love New Orleans. I love Universal too.
Right.
And we, had the opportunity to enjoy the Mardi Gras celebration. The floats that they have are incredible. They're built by the same company, major companies. There's one that I think that has been building the floats for the main Mardi Gras parades in New Orleans since the early 1900s, has been building the floats for Universal as well. And they are a sight to behold. Totally worth visiting during this time. So if you're thinking about a spring break trip, winter break trip, if you have winter break, let us know because we'd be happy to get you booked for a Universal trip. And I'm looking at that thinking, I'm drooling, of course, like I normally do, because I've got so much planned already.
You do. You only have a few things, but
I do.
And the reason it's a big deal is that there are people who travel to Universal just for this time of year because of the floats, because of the food, because of the festivities. So last year the floats were brought out, but there was not a parade because of everything happening, but it was still a festive atmosphere. We haven't heard more details. Really, it just said more to come, but to know that those are the dates it's happening, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's more happening even than last year. But it's definitely, if you already have a trip planned during that time, it's a bonus that this is happening. But if that's something appealing to you, it's a great time to visit Universal.
Right. And last year they had the whole set of flavors from around the world, which is sort of like a food and wine festival, set of kiosks. I fully expect that to be back based on the teaser information they provided, which was even more robust than just the Mardi Gras food, but they'll have beignet and etouffee and, all that yummy
Yeah.
New Orleans food.
Yeah.
But it was even more robust than that last year. And so totally worth a trip. I know I'm heading down for the Princess Half Marathon in February with my daughter, thinking
Can I get
I can
over there?
send her home. I can't. She can't
No, you
fly alone. I
can't.
mean, maybe she could fly alone, but maybe I need to pop down for a weekend. And the nice thing about Universal, I mean, even though I'm in Minnesota, we've popped down to Florida for a weekend. We found some great flights. And Universal is one of those locations where, in a lot of cases, in most cases, it's possible, except for during the very busiest times. So maybe spring break or summer. But during, from February 5th to April 24th, there are a lot of weekends there where you could plan a last minute trip around some great flights, pop on down for the weekend and have an amazing time. So you're
Absolutely.
not needing to spend, to plan to spend an entire week there. You could spend a few nights, have a great trip, see Harry Potter World, see, the Mardi Gras floats, head to the parks, sometime at City Walk. I mean, you name it, and
Right.
have a wonderful trip. So
That's so true. Okay. So, Jennifer's going to fit it in somehow.
somewhere it'll happen.
Shocking. If you've been with us at all, suddenly, and she's going to talk about something coming up too that she's on the countdown for already. So
Yeah,
I'm jealous. Yeah. I'll just be.
I can't stop myself.
Yeah, drinking my wine. I'll do the Facebook post while she's away. So
Thank you.
yeah,
That's important.
I can do that. It's a team effort. So Universal, if you're thinking about it as well, or just considering it, or just have no idea pricing wise, we're happy to help you with that too, as well as any of our friends with Mickey Travels and Let's Adventure Travel too. But Universal is a great option. As we've talked about, a lot of different price points as well, as Jennifer talked about the flights. We're still seeing a lot of great deals on flights as well. Of course, we're hitting some of those prime holiday seasons times coming up, but there are some others that I just keep looking and thinking, this is crazy. Like, I just want to I need to take advantage of this. So be just looking at all of that. But again, lots of options at Universal, and we can kind of guide you through that and know that there's a lot happening there. So you will have a great time.
Yeah. And I mean, when it comes to flights, you're right. There are times, when I look at flights and I'm used to paying the pre-COVID dollars for flights. And even now, families are asking me, is this a good price? I'm like, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, like, this is less than I would have. I mean, that would have been my minimum threshold to make a decision on a trip, by like $100 a person, on a major carrier.
Right.
And so I'm seeing, Delta nonstop out of Minneapolis for like $200, $225 main cabin. And that's
crazy.
Unheard of. And then it's less on Sun Country and Southwest and, other carriers. So, but I like Delta, especially in the winter. I feel like they're always going to get me there. So that's why I book, if I'm booking a cruise or if I'm booking international travel or, whatever, I will book other carriers. I love Southwest for Florida travel, especially because I know they can be flexible and they'll get me there, even if I might have to change connections. But the prices are so low that we're traveling more than ever before right now, because it's just like, I know this is going to end.
I know. That's what I think.
Now.
Right. That's what I keep saying. Like, take the trip is that hashtag. You've probably seen that a lot, that we clearly belong to as well, and trying to take advantage of that. So yeah, of course, it depends on your city or what the closest airport to you might be. It might not be near a major city like that, but still, even those discount carriers are offering really token deals. If you're not a frequent airline flyer, you do just want to look at that fine print too. So sometimes those flight prices might be really cheap, but it might not include luggage, or it might not include other things like that. So I will say we flew Spirit and Frontier this time. We fly to Cleveland typically, and that was the cheapest. Some people have all their feelings on different airlines. I'm always about frugality, but it's also direct. So that's a bonus to me. And again, for those of you who followed us for a while, it was a family of 5 traveling. Spirit and Frontier, it has to be small back. Frontier, you can get away with a little more. Spirit, not so much. A small backpack. We had one piece of luggage under 40 pounds for 5 of us. This is significant progress.
That's amazing.
We were literally walking to the airport. I'm like, I feel like I'm missing an appendage or something. Like it literally fell. I mean, I am a Southwest. We take everything we could take. So, and I still carried a big backpack even in the park because that's just me. But just look at that. But if you're thinking about a quick weekend trip, you don't need a lot of luggage. You don't need a lot with you. And it was incredibly hot while we were there. So we definitely didn't even need layers either. So
Yeah,
some
my
good
Google
deals
Photos was
yeah.
reminding me that a few years ago we had taken a trip literally for one night. We've done this before where it's been one night or 2 nights, but one night for a Halloween party and gone down, and you really don't need any luggage for that. You need your pajamas, you need your Halloween costume, you need a good night's sleep the night before, and you're there. And we flew Spirit
Okay.
on that and connected through Chicago. But again, when you have nothing with you and you're going for one
Right.
specific event, you're good to go. So yeah, it's possible, and it can be affordable for families too.
Right. And how was your flight booked? Were your flights booked each way, like packed?
On the way, yeah, actually on the way down, it wasn't too bad. On the way back, we were full. But still, we had booked on points and everybody was booked on a different confirmation number. And so they changed my kids at the last minute to different seats. And so I stopped at the desk when we got there and they said, we can put you all together in the back row if that's okay with you. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just going home. So they put us all together, which,
Okay.
was great. So but that I pretty much expect. But then,
Right.
I mean, all the airlines, I think, protect certain rows or spaces in case of these types of things. And so, I mean, the girls and I've got 2 girls. And so we were 3 together, and then Matt was by himself and there was no one next to him. So we could
Yeah.
have moved if we wanted to, but we were fine
Right.
where
Right.
we were. So otherwise, it sounded like there were some standby folks planned
Mhm.
for the flight, but it didn't end up being too bad at all.
Yeah. Well, and one tip I will say is we do fly Spirit and Frontier every so often. So you can pay for a seat, and there's some other carriers like this too. We choose not to. Um, Again, I am frugal. But it's a gamble as well, I will say, but we have never not been seated together.
That's great to know.
So I'll
Because
just
when
say
I've
that
flown
again.
them, I've always paid for seats.
I know I'm just like, no, I will not pay for my seat. So you can, and it's based on, you'll see the seats. If you haven't looked at these carriers, they'll have the money amount based on how close you are. So we have not, the trick is making sure you're all in the same confirmation. Sometimes we've done split up and we haven't ended up all together. I have 3 children. As long as my youngest is with me, we all ended up together, which was great. On the way back, it was just Jack, who's my 16-year-old, and I. We were in our own row with a seat between us. But I've never had this happen. My kids don't have TSA pre-check. They all got pre-check on their boarding passes, both ways.
That's
So
great.
that was like the travel gods were with us. So I cannot tell you that will happen every time because we both, the 2 mom and dad traveling, have pre-check so that we all got it, which saved us a lot of time as well. Jennifer, you had something kind of weird happen flying down with the girls, which probably feels like
Oh, well,
about
this
the
time not so much, but we've had an experience before where they didn't have pre-check because they were on a different confirmation number.
right.
And so this time we made sure, and they say that with
You're right.
pre-check, it's children ages 12 and under who
Mhm.
automatically get it if they're traveling with parents.
Right.
But it sounds like if you're on the same confirmation number, it's closer to 16 and under.
And
But
that's
we
if they have
decided, we decided at this point in time to just do pre-check for the girls. We purchased this for them. But the weird thing that happened this time is TSA is going to not looking so much at your boarding passes, but using your IDs to verify who everyone is. And we travel all the time. We were just traveling and flying in August. We've taken, I don't know. I mean, because we travel very often, probably 8 to 10 separate flights per year, down and back or more. We've
Right.
never had to show any type of ID for my kids. They are now
Right.
13 and 14, and you're not required to. They're not required to have ID, officially until they're 18. But on the way down, our TSA person that we first checked in with seemed a little bit taken aback that I wasn't planning on showing ID for my
Yeah.
kids, who again, who are 13 and 14. There are definitely minors. And we'd never had to before. And I said, well, I have their passports with us because, we maintain passports. We always keep them for the kids. We keep them for ourselves. We always bring them with us just out of an abundance of caution, I guess. I don't know. I always want to be uber careful about those things. But what they did is they scanned the identification and didn't even look at our boarding passes, which was very strange to me. That's the first time that's ever happened. And then that happened on the way back. I mean, there wasn't a concern from TSA, but we were prepared with their passports because we had them with us anyhow. And so we just presented them. They scanned them again, didn't look at the boarding passes, made sure that they asked the kids what their names were. But in the past, they've just asked them what's their first and middle name. Sometimes they've asked them their age or their birth date, identifying things that they might have already after scanning their boarding passes. This time they asked for ID. So it sounds like the TSA is transitioning to a program by which you are identified more by your ID than by your boarding pass. And they know everything they need to know about you. They know that you're flying based on your ID versus your boarding pass. And that really threw me. We were prepared, luckily. We would have gotten through without it. I mean, plenty of people have and do, but it sounded like that's become more of an expectation. And so if you're planning on getting a state ID for your kids or you're planning on getting a passport, I think personally, to me, I just always like to have a passport. It's not that expensive. For kids, it's every 5 years that you get one. For adults, it's every 10 years. It's maybe $140 with the cost of the passport and the picture and everything included. But to me, it's an extra form of protection. And because we like last minute travel, it's easy if you find a great flight. I mean, when we went to Disneyland Paris, we weren't planning to go to Disneyland Paris. We found cheaper flights to Paris than we did to Orlando. And I was like, well, Orlando, Paris. So we had the passports, we're all set. We could totally do it.
Right.
So, it's a little bit more legwork and planning, I think, to always have those. Like, we're going to renew the kids' passports in a couple of weeks just to have them completely up to date in case we're interested in international travel. But I think it's a wise thing to have in general.
Yeah. And I think, again, it depends how much you travel. We sometimes get those questions. So I think I shockingly never had I think I only carried copies of the kids' birth certificates when it was, when you used to be able to fly free up until a certain age. And if some Southwest used to be, and again, I'm 16-year-old, this is way back. They used to sometimes ask. But it doesn't hurt to have a copy of it with you just in case. Eventually, everyone will be moving to that real ID as well. There was the delay, obviously, because of the pandemic. I have that now.
Do you? Oh, God.
I do. Because I got mine I feel like it was 2019. It was my birthday, so 2 years ago, because my license was expiring and I knew we were going to need it within a year. And I thought I might as well just do it now.
Good point.
Of course, I did it, and now you don't really need it.
Yeah.
But this is another little piece of trivia. Do you know what piece of information is not on the real ID? It's an identifying factor that is on your current license. It is not on the real ID.
Please tell me it's your weight.
It is your weight.
Ah!
I didn't even know this. I was who knew this. This was just like a month ago. A friend, someone was talking about your weight. They're like, oh, they said, can we see yours? Because you have one. They're like, you're actually ahead of the game. I'm like, it's usually because my license they let me in. So your weight is not on it.
Good, because that can fluctuate a little bit.
So Well, a lot of people do. Well, who, I mean, come on, when someone looks at you when they're trying to cart, like they're going to be like, no, so no weight
Right.
on there. Height is on there.
That makes
So if you
sense.
like that, you might want to go get that real ID soon.
I know. And my thought when the real ID came out, I was like, well, I have a passport. I can always just use my passport because you
Of
can.
course,
Your
you can.
passport, is equal to your
Mhm.
real ID, and the passport book, not necessarily the passport card. Those are two
Right,
very different things.
right.
And then I had planned to, and my ID needed to be re-upped during all the closures and COVID, and I
Yeah,
could just do that
right.
remotely with a state ID. And so I kept my driver's license the way it was. And so I don't have a real ID yet. And I did actually ask a TSA, and they said 2023
Mm.
now is when it's been pushed back to. So
Yeah, so
we've
there's
got
no
some
rush to go.
time. But
Yeah,
but if your ID is being, if you need
yeah,
to renew,
yeah.
it's not a bad idea to
No,
renew to the
no,
real
it's
ID, or
right.
make sure that you have a passport, because then if you want to travel last minute, you're going to have everything that you need either way.
Right. That's the thing. I just thought if I'm going, I might as well, because who likes to, no offense if anyone works at the DMV, BMV, whatever it's called in your state, no one wants to spend extra time there. They don't need
Right.
to. So that's a pro tip on the identification. So, yeah, so the reason we needed all these things is because we got to be in Disney World. So I guess before we say that, we are doing a little giveaway as well. So if anyone's on and wants to chat or comment, either here during our live streams, or if Jennifer's walking around a resort or we're showing you something, or on our Facebook group as well. We saw some more people posting or asking questions, all of that. Feel free to do that. So we are doing that as
Right.
well. But yeah, we got to be in Disney together last week, which was fantastic. So it's hard to believe a week ago we were getting ready to leave, and you a week ago were there. You had a great.
Yeah.
You
It
packed. Talk about
seems like
packing
a
a lot in quick trip.
lifetime ago. I mean, it
Yeah,
really does. It seems forever ago. And I really
yeah,
wanted to stream on Tuesday, and realized as soon as I got to the park that our Wi-Fi service was not the Wi-Fi and 5G and LTE and whatever. I mean,
the park.
everybody, vloggers and bloggers and other folks were using obviously the bandwidth. And so I looked at it and thought, this is just going to be impossible. So I took a lot of video. I have 2 months more worth of videos to post, and so we'll slowly be releasing those. There's just so much that we enjoyed during the 50th celebration. I do have to say that we've traveled a lot after reopening after the pandemic. Um, we traveled really immediately after the resorts opened, before the parks were even open, enjoyed the parks. I mean, the parks late July 2020 were emptier than I've ever seen them. And since then, we visited a lot. And I was looking at this time as being the parks, Magic Kingdom was booked and full, Epcot was booked and full, like all of the parks were booked and full. It was impossible to get a resort reservation. So we were prepared for it to be, I mean, a level of madness that we haven't expected since pre-pandemic. And, we were used to that. We were at Disney World end of February 2020. So 2 weeks before everything closed, we were there. It was packed, but not like capacity. And so we went fully expecting just to have to be patient, enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the energy, but not do a whole lot.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I was incredibly pleasantly surprised. I felt like things were empty.
It was, and I have not been in the parks with my kids since the pandemic. So a lot of what I talked to them about was we're going for this, but we're gonna have to wait. And we really, especially Magic Kingdom on that Friday. In hindsight, I probably would have not pushed to get into the park so fast.
I know. Well, no, but we had a great.
The same thing, hence why they were fading at 6 p.m. because mom got you up at 6 a.m. to get in there. Because I really did say to them, I don't know how much we're going to ride. We're going to spend the majority of our day waiting. And we'd been at Hollywood Studios the day before, and the wait times, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I think we walked over 30,000 steps on Thursday, which is crazy. And then Brooke's Fitbit died. So we probably did more than that.
Oh
And I
my
forgot,
gosh.
of course, half my Fitbit was in the car thing in the car. I left it. So I didn't have mine, but she had hers. So anyway, but because we were walking so much, because you weren't standing in line as much, I mean, it was remarkable. I mean, we went on everything we wanted to multiple times.
Right.
Even last Friday on the anniversary in Magic Kingdom, I mean, I'll thank all the people who waited in line to shop for hours and didn't go, but it just was not what I was expecting at all. So, I mean, I don't think any of us, we just didn't know what to expect. It was remarkable. Quite frankly.
Right. I mean, we had just been there over the summer and we waited for some things over the summer too, but even our longest wait times over the summer were maybe a max of 35 to 40 minutes. I mean, we
Yeah,
really didn't wait, but it was hot, it was rainy. It's a little bit, I mean, summer is different just because of the heat.
absolutely.
But I expected that to be the
Mhm.
end sort of our
Yeah,
minimal waits, and
right.
that wasn't the case at all. We visited Magic Kingdom. We arrived, went straight to Epcot, and Epcot was having a Ratatouille preview.
Yeah.
So we went to Epcot. We enjoyed, a late lunch at Space 220, which was really fun. Like
Yeah.
I was interested because I wanted to know the atmosphere. I wanted to have the experience as a travel planner. We got in there, and both my husband and we both said, this is really neat. Like, I didn't know what to expect. The food was really good. I don't know if I would say it's the best food I've had at Disney. It was really nice quality food though. Our server was incredible. The atmosphere was, something that we really, really enjoyed. And we're kind of picky when it comes to those types of things and the
You're more, yeah,
gimmicky
you're
stuff.
definitely more a foodie family than,
Yeah, and the gimmicky stuff doesn't always do it for us, but this
yeah.
was so well done. It was just super fun.
And
We had
you
a
said that
great time.
yeah, you said the servings were good size.
The serving, so I'd seen pictures ahead of time and I thought, oh, it looks like for the price, the serving sizes are tiny. We were
Yeah.
stuffed by the
Right.
time we left. So I mean, if you're looking at pictures and if things look small, they're twice as big as they look in those pictures. I mean, they're
Mhm.
really big.
Right.
And my kids eat. I've got teenagers who are athletic. All they do is, Irish dance and other stuff. I mean, they're on their bikes, they're constantly, they eat. And they were full without dessert because we did lunch. So lunch didn't have dessert.
Right.
But I thought the atmosphere was incredible.
Yeah.
Everything about it was, you really felt like you were in space. And I've never been in space, clearly.
Right.
But I mean, I've been a lot of places, but not space.
It's
But
like, oh, do we have something to share here?
no. No, but I mean, and I get like motion impacts me. So I was in
Mm,
a place where I actually felt like with the sound and with the motion around me that I was in a place that was moving and floating, and my family didn't feel that the same way. Not that I felt sick. I didn't feel sick at all.
right.
That I felt more of emotion because I'm more susceptible to
Sure.
that. But yeah, all of us were impressed with the
Mm,
experience. And so
yeah.
I would recommend it. I mean, if you're on the fence, I mean, it's probably someplace just because of the space and the time and the cost, we wouldn't do it every time, but it's a special occasion place
Yeah.
for us for sure.
Right.
Um, yeah, I do think it's worth a try to get a feel for,
No,
if
you
that's
sold me
your
on it
thing.
more. Well, and I think that's a good point too, is especially for those of you watching who you've never been to Disney, you don't know where to start, or you hear what I always tell my clients, I've probably mentioned this before, everyone has an opinion on pregnancy, childbirth, and Disney. So I literally tell every one of my clients and they laugh. And I said, it's true. As soon as you tell
Yeah,
someone you're going to Disney, they're going to tell you everything. Or if you start reading a blog or you go down the rabbit hole that is Disney or Universal, you look at pictures. Again, it's hard, like you're saying, it's hard even to see a good picture and say, I'm not sure. You can ask us, and we have tried a lot, or we have our thoughts on things. And again, it depends on your family. Like
right,
my family, probably that wouldn't have been a great fit just because my kids are a little pickier. But again, it's all about what kind of atmosphere do you want, lunch versus dinner, what kind of meal. I mean, there's a
right,
lot of cool experiences. So the more people I'm seeing talk about it, and a lot of our fellow agents have been there and raved about it as well. It's a really cool, and you're right, it's more of an experience such
right.
as a meal.
Though I do feel like there's something for everyone. So, I mean, because we got everything from the calamari, which my whole family thought was great. And my husband doesn't eat like seafood or whatever, but
Yeah,
I mean, he'll eat
right.
fried stuff sometimes, but it was good. It wasn't chewy. I mean, we
Mhm.
had the steak, the salmon. I had the tuna. One of my kids had the burger. It was, I mean, so there
Yeah,
is
there is.
something for
It's an
everyone.
accessible menu for sure.
It
Yeah.
really is. And then of course we ordered some specialty drinks, which were super fun and not necessarily our style. And the hard thing for me is that I have a hard time planning table service restaurants in Epcot at all, especially during a festival, because we love the festival food. And that's
Yeah.
one thing we missed on this trip. I went in full steam ahead on getting food at some of
Mhm.
the areas that we just, I mean, the food and wine booths that we weren't able to hit over the summer.
Right.
I only got a couple of them in because we had, a couple of nice dining reservations.
Right.
So, I mean, Epcot's one of those hard places where
It
there's
is.
so much good dining. I know a lot of families skip it because they think it's not accessible for kids. It
I know.
is. It's totally accessible for kids. There's so much there. There's also great food, wonderful entertainment. There's so much to do. So I think
And I think
Epcot's a
it's
really
gotten
hard one to skip.
it is, and I think it's gotten better every year
Right.
too, because I think again, that's an illusion of, oh, it's food and wine festival. That's just adult geared, or there isn't anything for my kids. There is so much for kids, even in the countries, speaking of cast members, the different like activities they can do. I mean, but you're right. There is entertain. You will not even get to all of it. I mean, the
Right.
performers. I mean, there really is a lot. So I try to encourage all of my clients. And again, we're huge Epcot families, both of our families.
Right.
And we've been taking our kids since they were young. It's my kid's favorite park. So we didn't
Same.
get to do it this time, which is, I mean, to have a teenager say that
It's
is a big deal.
hard.
I
Yeah.
know. So, homecoming trumped our Epcot plans, but how was Ratatouille?
Oh my gosh. It's perfect. It's a cute rock. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love Ratatouille.
I do too.
I love my roller coasters. It's not a roller coaster. It's a flat ride. It's a
Okay.
3D flat ride where, and again, I'm prone to motion sickness. I don't have too much trouble with that ride. Um, but it's adorable. And it's exactly the same as the one in Disneyland Paris, which is exactly what I wanted it to be because
Yeah,
it's
I'm so
such a great
glad.
ride already that
Right,
I didn't want them to change it. And
right.
so it does, fluctuate back between French and English. I don't think it's inaccessible to anyone. I mean, the French that
Yeah,
you hear is French that you hear in
right,
English. Any like dépêchez-vous, hurry up. Like
yeah,
people know some of these things. You can't
right.
not guess what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's totally worth it. And when I think about Epcot now, I mean, even more now with the Ratatouille ride.
Right.
Um, I tell families pick three main things that you really want to do in every day, like in every day of your trip, and
Mm-hmm.
plan the rest of your day around it and consider the rest of it to be bonus. And so if you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking Epcot, there's, oh my gosh, so Spaceship Earth, you've got Finding Nemo, you've got Soarin', you've got Figment, you've got Ratatouille, you've got Frozen Ever After. I'm thinking of more of the kid accessible things.
Sure.
I mean, there's an incredible amount. And then if you've got a dining reservation and some other activities,
Right.
you've got
Yeah.
more than three or four main things that you're planning,
Oh,
in the
absolutely.
park. But so we went on Ratatouille a couple of times during our preview day. We went on it again. We were able to get a space in the virtual queue. If you are familiar with our Wizarding Wands and Mickey Ears YouTube channel, I put together a video for Rise of the Resistance. The virtual queue is exactly the same as Rise of the Resistance, and so if you'd like to look at that video, great. If not, I'm hoping to complete my video this weekend for the Ratatouille virtual queue, get that uploaded so you know exactly how that works. It's a virtual queue again where you have to be super quick. So it opens at 7 o'clock in the morning. Um, you can select your party actually shortly before 7 o'clock in the morning, which is great. That's something that they changed very recently with the Rise virtual queue before they got rid of it and then we introduced that with Ratatouille, but you need to be on it, clicking as quickly as you possibly can. If you are using like a world clock on um, a different not like phone or you know iPad or something like that, that's helpful to have, not on the one actually that you're using for your virtual queue, but you click through as quickly as possible. You get a virtual queue. They give you a return time. You can show up at that return time or later. And so technically they give you an hour, but I haven't heard of anyone being turned away after that hour. And we were actually a little concerned because our time kept getting pushed back. And we had a dining reservation we thought we'd be called. And then it was shortly after our dining reservation we were called, but we were talking to some folks in line who were quite lovely. And theirs had actually been called almost a couple of hours earlier, but they were in a dining reservation. They checked in, they let them in, they were in that space. So I'm sure that they prepare for the number of people that they're expecting, but
Right.
it's super adorable. And even if you don't have the virtual queue to get on the ride, there's a crêperie, so a place where they have both indoor dining for cup or, you know, an outside place where you can order them. And so we had eaten at Space 220, one on the ride a couple of times. Probably weren't ready for food again, but we got, you know, some of the sweet cup that they had available, and it was all awesome. I would say the berry one was probably my favorite. So,
Nice.
you know, we didn't get the savory. We only got the dessert.
Right.
And a glass of wine because
Of course.
glass of wine.
Did you go in the perfume? Did you go in the perfume shop?
I walked through the perfume shop because of you.
You overwhelmed? Was it too much scent wise for you?
It was fun. We actually spent a little bit of time there because one of my kiddos has been looking at one of the Doonies for a while, the Hunchback Doonie, and she'll get it eventually. She didn't this time either, but we stood there for a while and chatted with the folks.
It's a cute area.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So we'll link it's the Rise of the Resistance YouTube, but like Jennifer mentioned, she'll be putting that together as well. So it's the same format. And what's interesting, so right before we both left, it was announced that Rise of the Resistance that virtual queue was being paused. So now it's just standing in line. And there was concern of, oh my gosh, the line is going to be wicked, which at the very beginning of the day it is. It is. But by the end of the night, we waited. So again, we were asking each other and it was like, oh, it's only been a few days. What will we tell clients and things like that? We were there at Hollywood Studios on Thursday and we rope dropped actually earlier than that because we were staying at a Disney property and there were a lot of people going straight there. So that line got a really long wait time. We waited until later in the day. We waited 60 minutes, which was well worth it. 60 minutes isn't bad. It's not 2 hours or plus that we've been seeing. But I like it just because of the accessibility. There are people who just, you know, there are more people that are willing to stand in line and wait for that. And it is worth the wait, even probably 2 hours worth. It is incredible. So
it's fully immersive. It's such a great attraction. So I would think,
yeah, absolutely. So, and the wait, you are waiting and then boom, I think it was so funny. There was my 11-year-old my kids were getting antsy because it was the end of the night. And this couple, the man, he'd been on it 6 times before and he was with a friend. She'd never been on it. And he's like, we're getting close. I can see her. And then boom, you're in it. It is immediate. But the virtual queues are not going away. We're going to probably see those rolled out with all of these new rides that are going to be in high demand. So it's something that you definitely get used to. But as we saw, it's paused with Rise of the Resistance. Of course, we think our guess is with Genie Plus eventually rolling out in the Lightning lanes, that will change things as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Disney has said that they will continue virtual queues. And so I think they might do both.
I think so.
I mean, I think they'll have the folks who have the opportunity to get the virtual queue. If you don't, then you'll have the opportunity to purchase that through the Lightning Lane too. So I almost feel like that might be the best of both worlds.
I think so.
Because if it's a one and done Disney trip, which we all know that I don't believe in, lived that. I thought I was going to have a one and done Disney trip 10
Yeah,
years
that makes
ago,
me
like
laugh.
35 visits ago. But
I knew mine never would, but you were so funny. Which
I
is a
was
lot.
sure. I was sure. So
Yeah,
whatever.
not
But
alone.
if you're not able to visit very frequently, it might be worth the extra, I'm guessing $10, $15 a person to get on this one attraction that you are just wanting to get on, whether that be Rise of the Resistance, which doesn't have a virtual queue right now, or Ratatouille, but maybe Tron, maybe Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe anything else that they're
Yeah,
going to open in the near future. And so I don't know. I think that that would be something that would really we would think heavily about that with Genie and Genie Plus.
absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
So right now, not as much of an issue. Like we said, we were seeing in the parks all week that we weren't waiting like we expected to. And even at Magic Kingdom, and we're ride heavy people. So that is what we were doing all day. And we were not waiting. And I mean, I just kept waiting for these times to go up. And I'm like, how is Space Mountain sitting at 15 minutes all day? Like
All
my kids
day.
all day. My kids
Yeah.
rode it 5 times. I could make
Right.
it. I could do it, but just a couple times. But I mean, we rode. I was like, this has a 5 minute wait for going on, and the wait times were less than even it was posted. So that was remarkable to me. But as I said, we both were in Magic Kingdom last Friday, and it felt like a lot of people walking in. Jennifer was like, she was on it. What time were you on your bus?
We were on the bus just before 6 o'clock. So we got in line at 5:30 in the morning. I just had a feeling that the buses were going to start running pretty early. We were staying at Coronado Springs and they have a series of bus stops. And so even though it wasn't the closest bus stop to us, I went to the one where I knew they would pick up first. It's stop number 2 at the Casitas, in case you're interested.
Yeah.
And they filled up 2 buses from that spot. And so I got on the first bus, and then there were a whole slew of people who came after us who got on the second bus, and then they drove us straight to the parks and had to call for more buses for the other stops at the resort. And so we were there first thing. And honestly, there were a lot of people there, but we walked right in. So we got there at exactly the sweet spot between where the folks were waiting at the front gate to get in. So we had no trouble at all. I mean, we walked right in, and then I got into the line um, for the merchandise. Or where I thought the merchandise would be in the
Right.
Emporium. They changed it. It
Right.
was a different place. There was a virtual queue. After we realized that wasn't working and wasn't very comfortable for us, we got in line for Starbucks. Starbucks was the longest line I was in all day.
I know, isn't that insane? And just for reference, the Starbucks line is is a long line.
It
You have to
is.
wait all the time because it's the only one in the park.
And they don't do mobile order. And it's like the only location that doesn't do mobile order in the parks. And so if you think you're going to go to the parks and get your coffee first thing in the morning, personally, I recommend rethinking that. Get your coffee at the resort, plan to have something in your room. Starbucks is wonderful. The lines first thing in the morning at all the parks every day, even during the pandemic, are the longest lines you're going to experience, probably in the park all day.
It's true. It's true. So if you can't live without it, just know that,
You're going to be
that's,
waiting. Yeah. And
but
we
yeah,
were fine with that. We weren't in any hurry. We wanted to be in the atmosphere. We thought it would be fun. We knew it was going to be a long line. We ended up purchasing a really fun Starbucks tumbler that I didn't even know was going to be
I
on
know.
sale.
I
We got to
know.
the front of the line. They were pulling out and putting things on a shelf. And I thought, this is perfect because I hate the big cups. So I'm
Mm.
not a fan of the big specialty ones that everyone's selling on eBay for like $500. This one was really narrow because I like a narrow cup that I know that fits and it's easy to carry in my hand. And it was, I don't even know, $25 or something like that.
Cute.
But
It's on our Facebook page if you haven't seen it.
yeah, it's really fun. It's classic. It's got all the classic Disney
It's a
attractions
cute
in
one
it. I
for sure.
fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Totally worth it. And they are, continuing to restock that. So I just kind of happened to luck out when I was getting to the register. They put those out. I'm like, yeah, I'll take one of those too. But that was honestly really by far the longest line we were in all day. And we pretty much walked on everything else. We went
Yeah.
straight to Small World. I thought for sure Small World would have a long line because it's a classic attraction. And we thought the classics would have the long lines. We went on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, maybe had a 20-minute wait. It was posted longer than that, but I think we ended up waiting about 20 minutes. And that's the longest wait in all of Magic Kingdom normally. You know,
Right.
at the end of the night after the fireworks, we thought, okay, everyone, I mean, park was scheduled to be open to 10. They extended the time to 11. We thought everyone's sticking around, walked on anything we wanted to go on after the fireworks.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, when my daughter went on Haunted Mansion, there was not a single person in front of them.
That's so crazy.
I know.
I know. It was kind of, yeah,
Oh,
it's pretty crazy.
yeah.
It
It
was
was a
good.
lot of fun.
It was whirlwind for sure. I mean, walking in, there were a lot of people. And so what started last week too, it was originally announced that it would start October 1st, was if you're staying at a Disney property, you get in 30 minutes early every day to
To every park. Yeah.
every park. So Friday was a little crazy because it was kind of like just everyone went in.
And they let you in
But
a lot earlier than the 30 minutes
I
too.
mean,
Yeah.
just for reference, on Friday morning, the park opened at 6:15.
Right. If not a
And
little bit earlier than that. Yeah, they let everybody
I
in. By the
was
time my
still in
bus
my
got
bed
there.
at the Contemporary.
I was getting pictures
Her
on Main
family was
Street.
walking into the park. So I'm just know I'm dedicated to the certain level. So advantage of the Contemporary though. We were right there. So but that 30 minutes early is great. So we used that at Hollywood Studios the day before. So again, got my family moving. We took a bus from Contemporary to Hollywood Studios. And they were holding up, if you weren't a resort guest, they're holding everyone in. And actually they're saying 30 minutes. We're hearing, and it was almost an hour early that you were getting in. So by the time the park opened, we had been on a number of things already. And again, I prepared my family. Okay, as soon as park opens, because it was 9 o'clock was the typical park time, I said it's going to get busy. And it got busier, but it never got crazy. And we
No.
actually, and we're not typically a family that leaves. I know I tell people to leave. We are just go nonstop. But I now have teens.
Good
So
for
if
you.
we've done park open to park closed with 2 strollers and babies and all of that. We're diehard. My teens apparently can't do that anymore. So we
I
went
can't
back.
do that. I never could.
I
Good for
always
you.
did. I always did. I was like, what do you mean you guys are tired? But I will say it was incredibly hot while we were there. It was it felt really, I mean, it was like 91, but real feel felt like 90. I mean, it was warm. It was
I
hot.
thought it was fine, but we're
You
we're
did.
normally August visitors, and so it'll be like
Well,
95, 103 heat index, humid. So I mean, I was
you,
warm in the sun,
you
in
couldn't
the
pay me.
shade. We thought it was great.
So we were hot. So we went back to the Contemporary on Thursday and we swam. Like we took 2 hours and they swam in the pool and got their ice creams and then refreshed. We actually ate dinner at Contempo Cafe in the Contemporary because we were like, we're gonna eat something quick and then we can just hit the park running. And so that was good for us. And then we were back and did 2 more hours in the park and everyone managed to make it to the end.
Yeah. I'm really torn with the early hours the half an hour early hours in the morning because I think that's incredibly valuable. And for folks not staying on property, sadly, I think we're going to hear from people who are realizing quickly that um that makes a huge difference because you can get on one ride, get in the front of a second ride. You've already gotten two things done before the park officially opens. And then folks who are buying park tickets but staying off property or staying, even on a Disney package at a resort that isn't a Disney resort. I mean, lines for those most important attractions, Flight of Passage, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, could easily be 70 minutes or longer.
Right.
The place where I'm torn is that I feel like, at least in current times, and when we've been visiting, is that the evenings have gotten really quiet as
Yeah,
well. So if
absolutely.
you have the capability of staying close to park close, through park close, you might be rewarded with shorter lines. And we'll see what this looks like because now we know that there are select dates where deluxe resort guests will have those extra hours in the evenings. That's 2 hours. That's a long time.
It is.
I don't know if there'll be enough people at the deluxe resorts to really pack the last, I would say, about 3 to 4 hours of the day. But
Mhm.
after dinner and maybe seven or later, things were really quiet. Another
Right.
thing that I've been thinking about throughout the whole pandemic when we've been traveling is that we've been paying attention a lot to what's happening in other parks.
Mm.
And, I'm not the person to say, you have to have a park hopper ticket, especially on your first trip, or especially if you don't know your way around. But if you're
Right.
the type of person who is interested in paying attention to those things, and if you're comfortable being flexible with your plans, um, we have had several days in the travel since the pandemic where we planned one thing, looked at the wait times, and we're like, we can't pass this up. The
Yeah.
same thing happened on October 2nd. We went straight into Epcot first thing in the morning, enjoyed Epcot, went to Club Cool, which was so fun. Beverly again, and taste all of those sodas, and that was a lot of fun. Did a lot in Epcot, went to the beer garden, out of the beer garden, went to our virtual queue in Ratatouille and got out. And one of my kids was looking at the wait times in the other parks, and they're like, what does 13 minutes at Tower of Terror mean? What's this 10-minute wait time I'm seeing at, Mickey and Minnie's, Runaway Railway? We looked at it and we're like, we need to go to Hollywood Studios. And we hopped on the Skyliner. We went to Hollywood Studios. We walked on to Tower of Terror. We walked on to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Walked on to Rock and Roller Coaster. Went to Toy Story Mania. Like, there were no wait times. And then I got exhausted because I need sleep. So me and one of my kiddos went back, and my husband and my daughter stayed. But when I went back we probably left maybe 15 minutes before the posted park close time. So not a long time before the posted park closed, we walked into the bus depot and it was empty. It was literally empty. I took a picture because it felt like the Twilight Zone. But it's one of
You
those
did.
sweet spots where, we were leaving right before park closed. We went on everything we wanted to go on. Everyone else had decided to go somewhere else that day. My husband and my other daughter went on over to Epcot. They got a great video of Harmonious. So we're going to post that on the Facebook or on the YouTube channel as well. But like, my daughter and I got on a bus that was almost entirely empty, went back to the resort. We didn't feel like there was no one around us. We weren't feeling crowded. We weren't feeling rushed. We weren't feeling, I don't know, I get agitated when I'm in crowds, believe it or not, where I'm just like, I can't handle all these people around me. It was fabulous. And we probably wouldn't have experienced that if we hadn't park hopped. So
True. No, we were watching wait times. I thought, oh my gosh, I just thought this is so great. Again, that it wasn't just a freak thing. And I think we knew it would be busier with the 50th, but we're seeing that as well. One thing that you're mentioning about buses too, I just wanted to say too, we had been hearing, and we rode on one. I don't know if you rode on any of the charter buses, because they're not.
Some.
Just because of bus driver situations and buses and things like that. So you sometimes will see a charter bus pulling up, which I loved, actually.
I know.
I was like, we can spread out even more. Everyone has their own row. I had 2 kids asleep by the time we got to the contemporary. But you will see those both at Magical Express and at the resorts, just because of really, I think, staffing situations and just needs there too. So it doesn't mean it's not going to get you where you need to go. It just might be just maybe that's a possibility.
But I would say, now that I have had this experience and I know what's happening at the resorts, and we're familiar with what's going on with, our friends from Europe and other parts of the country, or other countries aren't, as able or willing to travel. I actually had a wonderful conversation with a great friend from Canada who had come down, and we had met up. But there are very different rules on testing and quarantining and all of those pieces. And she had been, she's a huge, crazy Disney fanatic like the rest of us, and been trying to get down the whole time during the pandemic. This is her first trip. But a lot of folks still aren't traveling from those destinations. And so we know that even though the parks and resorts on some days are fully booked, they're not fully booked to the 100% capacity to what was happening in, February 2020. And so when I walk into a fully booked Epcot, it was nothing like the weekend after Princess Half Marathon. We just felt uncomfortable after the races, and we were tired in February, pre-pandemic, and all the people, it was just too many. It was too people-y. And here I'm at the parks on a sold out weekend where you can't get a room on Disney property. And I don't know, we were at Coronado Springs. It felt, I mean, 50% would be an exaggeration.
No,
I
I would
never
agree.
waited for anything.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. And I expected, especially with the contemporary, we know that half of it is still under construction, the main building. We were actually in the garden, and we'll talk about that again because we're amazingly running out of time
I
too.
know.
We loved it, but I mean, literally saw 3 families the whole time we were there. Never heard anyone. It was weird. Like I
Mhm.
just kept thinking, are we just not seeing anyone? Think of a typical hotel. Of course you're going to run into people. Everyone's getting up and leaving at the same time. We just wouldn't see anyone. It was so
No,
quiet.
right.
Even the pool wasn't busy. I mean,
No.
that's strange. And I don't know how long this will continue, quite frankly,
Right.
but I think this is the norm for a while, as it has been. So know that if that is a concern, because that's certainly been one of my concerns, you want to keep your family safe, and everyone has different feelings on that.
Right.
Um, but I felt really safe that I could. I mean, you're wearing masks indoors, but even distancing, like we're sitting at the pool. Think of a typical pool at a major resort. We were sitting near no one. We're sitting in
Right.
the pool near no one. The kids aren't waiting to go down the slide. I mean, it was great.
Right. I didn't wait to go down the slide. I mean, it's not the Twilight
Yeah.
Zone. There are other people,
Oh yeah.
but they're not on top of
They're
you.
not. They're not. So it's pretty crazy. Or waiting for the monorail or waiting for buses. I mean, those are things I know. Again, we're leaving the park. I'm like, we're gonna have to wait for
Right.
a while. Just be ready for that. We didn't have to.
Right.
So
Well, I think in the like the media and the social media, for those who consume a lot of Disney blogger vlogger media, you see the crazy. I mean, you see the people in the emporium. I was in that mess for a minute and realized I don't need to be here. I don't need this merch. If there's something left over, great. All I want is an ornament. I didn't get the ornament I wanted. I don't care. I mean, not that big of a deal. I got a pin and some other stuff. But that, I mean, that wasn't my scene. And so we left, we removed ourselves from that. We were not in a place and have not been through the entire opening since the pandemic where I felt like I needed to put myself in a place where I was super close to people in an uncomfortable place. I could wear a mask wherever I wanted to wear a mask. They're required indoors. Um, Even in restaurants, there's still significant distancing. And so I hear from a lot of families and folks who don't always heed my advice or let me book for them that they're not going to find the availability that they found pre-pandemic. Things book up even faster than they did before. It's not because they're packed, it's because of limited
yeah,
capacity. It's because
right.
they're not, I mean, some locations, I don't know this for a fact, but like Topolino's Terrace, I don't think they're booking parties larger than 6. And I feel like they have maybe 2 tables that are 6. And so if you're a party larger than 4, you're not getting in unless you split your reservation. And I think that that's, I mean, so they say some book up to 10. I would say the majority of the locations maybe book up to 8. If your party's bigger than that, you need 2 reservations at the same time, which has been my personal.
And I will say that is one thing. At Magic Kingdom, we did have a sit down reservation on Friday. So we were with Kelly and her family. So we
Right.
had a large group. We had to put it in. We put our teens at one table and the rest of us at another table. But we were grateful for that. Again, it was hot that day.
Mhm.
So we had some time, but mobile ordering. Please practice mobile ordering. We have
Yes, it's
so
a
many.
godsend.
Honestly, that's again one of those things that was happening pre and now it's rolled out significantly, but you just want to master that. And again, Jennifer always has those pro tips like, order your Dole Whip before the fireworks end. And you just pull up. But I even did that, I'm sitting in my room at the Contemporary ordering breakfast for my family. It's all ordered, you hit it, and it's just there. You're just not then going and standing in line. You're just the
Right.
time. And I know Brian had said, he goes, this is a game changer. He's like, think of the time we used to spend waiting in line at quick
Right.
service. So that those things are busy.
And in the masses of people in the quick service, I never want to have to do that again in my life. I don't
No,
want
thank
that. I
you.
just want to order and show up when they say, show up to your window, pick up your food and
Yeah,
go. We've gotten
absolutely.
a question, actually a question in the chat from Teresa
Yeah.
McCoy. Teresa, it's so good to see you about the crowds for the nighttime shows. I have to admit, we were in Magic Kingdom on October first, and my family we gotten in line for the bus at 5 o'clock in the morning. We were on a bus at 5. We're at the park at like 5:15. We were tired. And so somewhere around 6-ish or so, we decided to take a seat, in the hub area to watch Enchantment, the first night of Enchantment. There were a small group of people who were sitting around that time. We were among some of the first, but we were just tired. One of my kiddos got up and, rode Space Mountain. I laid down. I was on the home phone with Disney travel agents because I wanted to, there was something that one of my clients needed, and that was the time to do it. So I was sitting in Magic Kingdom. I was calling Disney. But then one of my other kiddos came back and she was like, I'd really like a fun 50th anniversary treat. And we were looking at mobile order, and the confectionery has mobile order. And so we mobile ordered some 50th anniversary cupcakes. And she walked over there, came back to us. And so, when the fireworks started, when Enchantment started on the first, it was pretty packed in the hub. From what I understand, if folks have been in the back or on the periphery,
And down
it
Main
would have
Street.
been fine. Yeah, on Main Street, down at the back, closer to the exit, things were fine there. When it came to Harmonious, have to admit again, October 2nd, we had gone all day. I'd gotten there first thing in the morning with one of my kids. Matt came later with one of my other kids. And so we hopped over to Hollywood Studios. I was done. I fell asleep on the Skyliner, still enjoyed Hollywood Studios. I couldn't make it to Harmonious.
Yeah.
And so somewhere around 8:15, they hopped back on the Skyliner. They went over. I think Harmonious started at 9:45-ish or so. So they were there what ended up being less than a half an hour. He's got a great spot. He was in the Japan Pavilion. I'm actually going to post that video because he took a video with our GoPro, and he didn't expect. At that point in time, we were like, this is a wash. We're not going to get a great video of Harmonious. And he got a great view from the Japan Pavilion. And so I would say, even though Harmonious, I think right now, don't shoot me, is the better show. It's 20 minutes long. Enchantment is half an hour, or is 15 minutes, but it's in Magic Kingdom.
Right.
I like both. They're fine, but Harmonious is great.
Well, and I think of that too. The advantage of Epcot is there's so much more room.
Right.
To spread out and to watch it. And we're seeing people post about where the best places to see it. But that's why I've always loved Epcot, because you really can be anywhere and see that.
Right.
So there's more room. I can tell you, I think Friday, the first, that was an exception as well, because even around 7 p.m. on Main Street, there was roping happening. People were starting to stand because they wanted that prime location. I don't think that's going to be the way it is all the time as well. So that's just a thought. Yeah. And for watching the live stream, absolutely. I think of course, the first night people were in the park because they wanted to see that. Right. So again, if you want that primo spot, yeah, you could sit there for a few hours. I've never been that way necessarily. So, yeah, I think it just probably depends on the night, but still it's not the same crowds. Right. But again, if you're thinking I'll wait and watch the fireworks from a distance or from somewhere else, you can keep riding. Well,
and that's true. So like over the summer for Happily Ever After, which we love, we had been there. I think we were there for like 10 nights or something like that. And we earlier with my family wanted to get a good view from a little bit closer to the hub. And we got there maybe an hour early and just, stood around and had great conversation with the folks around us. But then we had some friends visiting and the kids were not having any of it. We rode rides until probably about 10, maybe even, 10 minutes before the fireworks. We were looking for a place. And then we're back probably near the entrance of the Emporium, which is a great place to watch fireworks. We watched Happily Ever After. We got to see the whole show. It was incredible. The kids loved it. They weren't packed back there. And then we scooted really fast. We were staying at Copper Creek at Wilderness Lodge, got on a boat. We were out before crowds, were even coming, had no problem at all. And so I don't think that Enchantment's going to be any different than Happily Ever After, was. If you want to be right in the hub, right in front of the castle, that's one thing. That's not the only place to watch the show. There are lots of good places to watch the show, though I do think the projections make a difference even more at Enchantment than they did at Happily Ever After. So if you can see, if you're on Main Street, this might be an unpopular position, or maybe for Disney, they don't want me to say this, but like, I'm not sold on the enchantment fireworks cruises because I don't think that's enough for me. The fireworks are great. It's not wishes. It's not happily ever after. The fireworks are consistent, but the projection means a lot more to me. That I
Yeah,
think is going to be different for Harmonious, because for Harmonious fireworks cruises, you get to actually be in the lagoon and see things. And
right.
there's a lot going on for
Yeah.
Harmonious. So I would book Harmonious before I would book a enchantment fireworks cruise
I think that's a really
personally.
good point. Yeah. And again, if you've not been, maybe you don't have that reference point either. It's all, sometimes it's those of us who've seen
Right.
them so many times and like it a certain way too. But just when you think about that, so the hub is that area in front of Magic Kingdom, in front of the castle. It's not that big. It just isn't.
No.
I mean, it just isn't. I mean,
Right.
even pre-pandemic, it felt small. I watched many a firework packed with my closest new friends around me.
Right.
So Epcot always just gives you a little more space as well. So yeah, so that's a good question. So I think we are getting that question a lot. So again, it depends what kind of full experience maybe you want if you're watching it Magic
Right.
Kingdom.
And part of me wonders if the point is that they want more people to go to Epcot, if they want more people to look and
You have to
watch.
wonder, right?
I mean, it's the longer show for sure.
Right.
And I think, and I say this, with hesitation, because I still think I need to spend more time sitting with it, because Happily Ever After made me cry,
I know. I
like
love
a sob, like a baby.
it. It's so good.
But I think Harmonious is the better show overall right now. And so
Mhm.
I would almost say, if you were doing one or the other, go to Harmonious.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen either,
They're
Magical News
both great.
Live,
They're both
yeah,
great.
Magical News Live has done some streams of it. We're gonna have Harmonious up as well. Obviously, anytime we're back in the parks, we'll show them to you too. But
Right.
you can find them and see them, and what a great view that is. You can just be on your couch with your glass of
That's my
wine.
favorite.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I'll be back. I'll be at Epcot in November as well with my friends, so they're excited to see it. So I'll be able to report back as well. But yeah, we'll kind of keep watching as we do and let you know as we keep learning things. And it's only been a few days too, so that's a good thing.
Right. And I mean, I guess I would have to say we're way over time. There's so
We are.
much more that we can talk about and will talk about.
Yeah.
We've got videos coming of Enchantment, Harmonious, Kite Tales, of different attractions. I've got Ratatouille. I will have a Ratatouille virtual queue. I did a live stream walking around Coronado Springs Resort, have a couple of, tours coming from there, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I mean, there's a lot. So keep an eye on the YouTube channel, hit subscribe, please. And also, like the videos if you are moved by them, because that helps us as well. And also, I would just say, if you've got a Disney cruise coming up that you've booked, with your favorite Disney travel agent, talk to them about, what to expect with your check-in, because I've got a cruise booked November 4th. And so we just did our check-in last night at midnight Eastern time. There were things that I wasn't expecting at all and wasn't prepared for. So the picture that Disney is going to get of me to identify me looks a little rough, because I had fallen asleep, set an alarm. Apparently, part of the online check-in process is, in addition to getting a picture of your passport, they also want a picture of you that's basically like a driver's license picture. Nothing in the background, a selfie without, eyewear, where they can see your eyes and your face, and completely solid background. I have about a million selfies, but none with nothing behind me. So in the middle of the night, just taking a picture of myself in my bathroom with a solid wall. After having a shower, no makeup, no whatever, but it looks, I guess, like me. That's what Disney Cruise
That's
Lines
right.
get for me. Wasn't prepared, but I got, 11 o'clock port arrival time, group 2. That's what was important to me at that point in time. But things have changed a lot with Disney Cruise Line. So even if you were a regular cruiser and you've done a lot of that pre-pandemic, things are changing rapidly. And even in the past couple of weeks, I was told that I should be able to check into the Safe Passage website 33 days in advance. Well, over the weekend, apparently that changed to 15 days. And so like things are changing rapidly. So just know that what you knew to be true before isn't true now. And the information that you got 2 weeks ago might not be accurate today. So again, talk to your Disney travel planner. You know, if you book directly through Disney Cruise Line, give them a call if anything doesn't seem right, because there's so much changing so rapidly.
Absolutely. So we have a lot we didn't get to tonight. We'll put that on our next chat
That's a
as
real.
well. So if you have questions for us or anything like that, feel free to drop those below, drop them in our Facebook group. That's the reason it's there, is to help you plan your next trip. And we're always here for questions and advice. And if you're ready to book that trip, we're here for you too.
Yeah, and be sure to comment on the Facebook page or on our live streams, or if you've got questions you want to post there, because we are doing monthly giveaways for folks who are posting new content on Facebook, who are responding or interacting, not just liking, but actually interacting with comments on Facebook or here on our YouTube lives or on our YouTube streams. So be on the
Absolutely.
lookout, because we want to give away,
Yeah, we do. Who doesn't
some
want a
gift
great
cards.
gift card to get something? Yeah, absolutely. So thanks
Yeah.
again for watching. We really appreciate it. Subscribing and liking and sharing our content. And until the next time.